Sirasadaya Sadavaha Disham Pratichim Prayayus Tapasya Drita Chetasaha. Word for word. Maitreya Ruvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Prācītasa, all the sons of King Prācīnabarhi, Pitu, of the father, Vakyam, words, Sirasa, on the head, Adaya, accepting, Sadava, all pious, Disham, direction, Patichim, western, Prayayu, went away, Tapasi, in austerities, Adrita, accepting seriously, Chetasaha, in the heart. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, because of their pious nature, all the sons of Prācīnabarhi very seriously accepted the words of their father with heart and soul, and with these words on their heads, they went toward the west to execute their father's order. Purport. In this verse, sadhava meaning pious or well-behaved is very important, especially at the present moment. It is derived from the word sadhu. A perfect sadhu is one who is always engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prācīnabarhi's sons are described as sadhava because of their complete obedience to their father. The father, king, and spiritual master are supposed to be representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such they have to be respected as the Supreme Lord. It is the duty of the father, the spiritual master, and the king to regulate their subordinates in such a way that they ultimately become fully unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord. That is the duty of the superiors, and is the duty of the subordinates to obey their orders perfectly and in a disciplined way. The word shirasa, on their heads, is also significant, for the Prācītas accepted the orders of their father and carried them on their heads, which means they accepted them in complete surrender. Maitreya Vacha Prācītasa Pitu Vakyam Shirasadaya Sadavaha Disham Petichim Prayayus Tapasya Ditta Chetasaha. Great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, because of their pious nature, all the sons of Prācīnabarhi very seriously accepted the words of their father with heart and soul, and with these words on their heads they went toward the west to execute their father's order. So continuing the story here of the King Prācīnabarhi, King Prācīnabarhi Shat, and his sons, the Prācītas. Now, just as after they had met Lord Shiva, is correct here, they had already met Lord Shiva on the way to do their tapasya. And we've, like when I was here a few days ago, we were describing how both King Prācīnabarhi Shat and his good wife were full of good qualities, and they desired to have the children, and so they perfectly worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and living entities with all good qualities came and appeared, and they appeared as their sons, and they were known as the Prācītas. So after some time, when the boys grew up, King Prācīnabarhi said that now is the time you need to get married and have a progeny of your own, family of your own. We have to keep, it is very important for the kings to keep the dynasty, keep the line. In the future they would also be the king. So a lot of training and education was there as far as to come up to be the prince and to become a king. It wasn't just an election of those who gathered the most popular vote. And what is the qualification of those who are voting, and what is the qualification of the person that gets elected? Very dubious arrangement in this so-called Western civilization of modern democracy, where everyone just votes for someone they like, or someone that maybe provides them with some sort of gratification, sense gratification. Oh, I like that fellow. That fellow is going to arrange to, get the road done outside my house, so therefore I'm going to vote for him. So, all can be all different reasons. So, what's the quality? What's the quality of these types of leaders, and what are the qualities of those who elect? So, in the Vedic system, there are elections. The Brahmins get together and talk with each other. There are different types of matters that the ministers discuss, and then it may be taken to the vote. But these persons are qualified persons to make decisions like that. And then when they get together, and whether it's taken to a vote or whether it's consensus, they all agree. So there is what's called collaboration. Collaboration is not that a dictator where just one person makes all the decisions regardless of what anyone else thinks. And so it's not dictatorship, but the ancient times where the kings, the royal order was there, they were trained, Kshatriyas. And they were trained very nicely under the guidance of the Brahmanas, and so on and so forth. So therefore, the King Prācīnabarhi himself was qualified, and the sons were very qualified. So now it's time for them to get the family, and as we've been discussing, they thought that, to get married and have a nice family, we need to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they decided to go and worship the Lord, first of all, detaching themselves from their situation, performing some measure of tapasya, austerity, and so they decided to go. This will be described in the coming up verses. They go to the lake. They were already on the way, or to the original intent was go to the ocean, and this was in the Satya Yuga, where people live 100,000 years. They were going to do 10,000 years of tapasya, go under the water, go to the bottom, and do meditation for 10,000 years, controlling the pranayama, the breathing, to practically nil breathing. With nil breathing, nil eating, somehow or other, they had that perfection. People in the Satya Yuga had these types of perfections. They could do it. Of course, Kali Yuga, they can't do these types of things. But they could do it. So they met Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva gave them, he appreciated their intention, and he knew the boys had very nice qualities, and so he gave them extra instructions. And the song of Lord Shiva, he gave them these mantras to chant. You worship the Supreme Lord by these mantras, very beautiful mantras. So when they're continuing on now. Later on we'll read how they continue on accepting Lord Shiva. He became more or less their guru. He initiated them by these mantras. They practiced tapasya and in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Praying together, they were locked in consciousness, in mentality. The 10 boys were locked together. So that together they were meditating. They were in sync with each other. This is something that's very unusual for us, or we don't experience that type of thing. And apparently they were synced, and they were all chanting these prayers like that and doing their meditation. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we'll read, appears to them under the water in a Vishnu form. And this description is given in the coming up chapters. He comes riding on Garuda. The boys their meditation was broken. They heard the flapping of the wings of Garuda, which was emitting the sound of the Vedas. Garuda is described. He's the eternal mount of Lord Vishnu, and he's looking like the great eagle with wings, or sometimes he's depicted as half human, half eagle. There's very nice description. I was just been at New Gokula, and they're further down the 29th chapter, so we've been reading these descriptions. That one description is Garuda looks like a resident of the Kinara Loka. Kinara Loka is residents there, can fly from place to place. They've got wings and they can fly. And Prabhupada says, and apart from the Kinnaras, there's many others who can fly from planet to planet, even like the Siddhaloka. They don't need even wings. By their mystic powers they go. So Garuda came carrying Lord Vishnu. Now, interestingly enough, it's mentioned that Lord Vishnu appears generally four-handed, carrying all symbols in his hands. But this particular form of Lord Vishnu was eight-handed, riding on Garuda, and he effulgent, and he appeared under the water, where they were meditating. They, instead of going under the sea, they decided to go to this big lake or bay or whatever, because it was calmer there. Sometimes the sea can get more rough, and so they're meditating. They don't want to be disturbed, so they went to this bay and lake. It was more calm, so they went under there. The Lord appeared there, and so they were so overwhelmed. Here they had previously gotten the darshan of Lord Shiva, so they were so much in ecstasy. Imagine you're walking, going somewhere, and Lord Shiva all of a sudden appears. He had his entourage, and so they paid obeisance, of course, to Lord Shiva, and he gave them those prayers. So he was like the guru, and more or less the Diksha guru of the Prācīnas. And so now they've been chanting, and actually the Lord was speaking to them. They offered prayers, and then after they offered prayers, the Lord spoke to them. I'm very pleased by your tapasya. This tapasya for the spiritual objective is always appreciated by me. Materialists, they do tapasya, they do austerities for material sense gratification, which is just temporary. But someone who does austerity for spiritual development and spiritual advancement, and you've done your tapasya offering prayers composed by Lord Shiva. So Lord Vishnu mentioned that. You've used the prayers of Lord Shiva. And I was talking about this when I was here a few days ago, that it's always wonderful to use the prayers composed by great personalities, like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Brahma Samhita, Govinda, Maripurusham, Shikshashtakam, Lord Chaitanya. So many prayers, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Samsara, Sri Guru Vandanam by Narottam Das Thakur. So many great devotees compose beautiful prayers. So we can offer prayer, and if it's heartfelt and with done in love and devotion, the Lord will appreciate that. But he especially likes those especially beginning devotees to find out what are the beautiful prayers to offer, because they're full of so much love and devotion and so many different meanings and subtle nuances of rasa. And so the Lord likes to hear those types of things, descriptions of the Leela. So Lord Vishnu specifically mentioned it. I'm very happy you're doing this tapasya for this purpose. You're worshipping me, sacrificing. Anyone could be going and enjoying, but they didn't do that. They did this tapasya. So as a sacrifice for them. And specifically you use the prayers given to you by Lord Shiva. So actually he gave instruction. Now your tapasya has come to an end. He must have come at the end of their time. They were doing the tapasya for 10,000 years. So then now I want you, when you come out of the lake, I want you to get married as your father intended, as mentioned here, and we'll come back to this verse. He gave the instruction that they should get married. He wanted to continue the dynasty and so on. And I know that your father instructed you in this way, and you were blessed by Lord Shiva. So I have a very nice girl for you. Her name is Marisha. She's grown up in the forest. She actually appeared from the result of the union of Kandu Muni and Pramlocha, Apsara. Now Kandu Muni was a great rishi who was performing tapasya, so great and so powerful, Indra became worried. He sent the Apsara Pramlocha to break his vow, and they had a union, and from their union came this Marisha, very powerful child. But she was left. Pramlocha looked after her for a while, then she left and went back to the Apsara Loka. And so she was left, and the trees, it said the trees cared for her, and specifically as she was growing, and the moon god came, actually it's mentioned Chandra came, and the little baby was crying, and he looked after her. So these descriptions are given. So, and then later on, so the Lord was saying that I have a very nice girl, and when you come out of the lake, you will meet with her, and you will get married to her and have offspring with her. So The boys were very, very qualified boys. So coming to this verse, they were sadhus. The word sattva is used here, as Prabhupada elaborates. In this verse, sattva meaning pious, well-behaved, good qualities, mode of goodness. It's very important, especially at the present moment. We don't have so much of that, well-behaved people. People are just behaving in all sorts of atrocious ways, violent ways sometimes. Just bent on sense gratification. They have to work very hard. They have to study hard, work hard, make some money, and immediately when they get some money, they go for the sense gratification. And sometimes they get frustrated, they get angry. Perhaps they can't make enough money. Perhaps they resort to stealing. They may be even become murderers. So all sorts of things go on in the Kali Yuga, very sinful. So we don't find many people who are very well behaved. And what is the definition of well behaved? There's some sort of idea. Primarily, well behaved, especially in the Western countries, it came from the religious teachings, Christianity, which had some good teaching and moral, well behaved. And in Eastern cultures, it comes from the Vedic texts, what is well behaved for a human being, how a human being is supposed to behave. But as Kali Yuga progresses, these instructions will be forgotten and ignored, and people will just act according to their urges. According to their urges. Now I'm hungry, I'll eat, and then I'll just eat anything. And I'm angry, then I have to take action. So it's resorting more and more to animalistic society. Animals are governed by their urges. When they're tired, they sleep. When they want to mate, they mate. It's just urge driven. But humans are supposed to be developed and not just be dictated by urges. So we are supposed to be more intelligent than animals and utilize our life in a mode of goodness way, in a regulated way. So then concentrating on our spiritual objective, which the animals can't do. Animals can't. They're ruled by their urges to varying degrees, and they're not thinking about spiritual life. It's just a struggle for existence. What is that? There's one. I forget now. One from the Bhagavatam. One living entity is food for the other living entity. Those who have eat and be eaten in the lower species of life. Eat and be eaten. You're eating something, and then you are also the prey of someone that's going to eat you. So it's a struggle just to live as far as the lower species of life, and therefore it's considered the greatest fear to live as a human, and then due to your actions and sinful actions, you go back again to the animal life, to the lower species of life, and have to suffer like anything, just driven by the urges, and have to suffer the difficulties of that existence. So humans are meant to be well-behaved, cultured, and educated, especially in spiritual life. And when one becomes like that, then he is sattva, possessed of all good qualities, and be possessed of good qualities, therefore automatically they're going to be well-behaved. And this word sadhu is derived from this, or sadhu, I think Prabhupada says it the other way, that the word sattva is derived from the sadhu. So sadhu is one who is well behaved. So they all the Prachetas were sadhus. They're sadhus, and because they're sadhus, well behaved, and the king Prācīnabarhi was also a very qualified king. When he gave an instruction, they immediately accepted it. They're very humble. Well behaved, good qualities means they're very humble and obedient to their father, who also has to be qualified. This Prabhupada actually points out here. They're supposed to be the representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if one becomes a father or a mother, or someone takes a position like that, you're supposed to act because you've now got dependents. You're supposed to be able to help the dependents, especially on the spiritual path. I mean, there's mothers and fathers for animals also, but they're not thinking spiritual life. Sometimes you have the father and the mother, they eat the young. They eat the young. So that is another thing on the animal level. But the human mother and father, they're supposed to be cultured, supposed to be educated, have all good qualities, and then they act like representatives of the mother acts like the representative of Lakshmi, and the father acts as the representatives of Vishnu. So then if you're the representative, you're educated, you're cultured, you have good qualities, then your instruction is going to be very good. So it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like that. And then when they give instruction, they have the children also who are sadhava, who are sadhus. They know that the father and the mother, they're representatives of Lakshmi and Narayan, and so they follow. Of course, if the father is not representing, is acting irreligiously, then those who are dependents have to have discrimination to know if the father has deviated or if the mother has deviated. It's not that blind following. We can't blindly follow. As devotees, we don't blindly follow. We're cultivating good qualities, and we remain submissive, but we ask questions. And therefore we have to use our intelligence to understand how to apply the instructions given to us. So someone who is actually representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they should be followed. So Prabhupada says here, the father is the natural leader in the family, and the mother, their leaders in the family, and the children are the followers in the family. And then they'll become father and mother, and then they will lead their family. So it's just a natural progression. So here the natural leaders of society, Prabhupada says the father, of course the spiritual master, the guru, and the king. The king is supposed to be the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the king has to remain humble. How? I am the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am not all in all myself. I am governed under the instructions and orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have the advisors who are well learned in the Shastras, the Brahmanas. I take their counsel. I have my ministers. I take their counsel. So many aspects. So many aspects. The king is not totally independent. He's not totally independent. Has to be representative of the Supreme Personality. So here we have King Prācīnabarhi, who's a father and a king and devotee. So there's a perfectly situated to give nice instructions. And the sons were perfectly situated to receive those instructions and follow them appropriately. So this is the subordinate's duty. So, when everyone understands how things are best understood and functioned in the material world through proper culture and education, then it's very natural. There's no agitation to the whole procedure of living in the world. When people are confused or have a million different opinions based on whatever to their liking, then it can create a very disturbing situation for everyone, and even for themselves. So it is the duty of the superiors, the duty of the subordinates to obey the orders perfectly and in a disciplined way. Prabhupada, every word, he thought very carefully when he wrote his purports. He took a lot of time of writing these purports, consulting the commentaries of the previous acharyas, what the previous acharyas had commented on these verses. Ramai Swami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladev Bijabhushana, all these great acharyas have also done the commentary. So Prabhupada would look at those commentaries and then present it in a way just suitable for the modern era. So Prabhupada actually told us, I put so much effort. So when you read these purports, every word he thinks on. I think on every word. Every word. When he was doing his translation and commentary, he demanded silence, so there could no noise. I was telling the story in New Gokula that, or Hari Sori told me many years ago when he was coming in to be Prabhupada's servant. Prabhupada asked Sri Dikiri, the servant, his former servant, when he said, is he coming in? Is he good at doing all these things? Yes, sort of Prabhupada, he's been trained. I've been working with him to train him how to do the services required, looking after you. But then Prabhupada asked, is his nose working? Is his nose working? And Sri Kitty didn't understand. He said, well, I don't think his nose is working, Prabhupada. No problem with the nose. And the Prabhupada meant, no, is he snoring? Does he snore? Because Prabhupada didn't like snoring, because when everyone was asleep, he would be working. And the noise, he didn't like the noise, it would distract. He was so focused and so intent in consciousness, thinking, writing the translation, reading, writing, consulting, and even that snoring would disturb him. We had to be very quiet around Prabhupada, but even outside of the night hours. Even I remember in Melbourne, the doors were banging, near his rooms. People were coming and going, and there was an office or something there, and opening the door, and the doors were banging. So he said that, he came out one time, he said, who is banging all these doors? He says, like a crack on my heart. There's a crack. I'm trying to do the work, and there's the doors banging everywhere. So actually we put some felt on the edges of the door. We said it would be very hard to monitor, because there's operational kind of offices around here, and so it would be very hard to monitor, or control opening and closing the door. So we put felt, little thin felt strips on the edge, so when the door closed you wouldn't even hear it, it just closed. That was proper, very nice. He even complained about one time that as a devotee brought him it was cold, they brought him a fan heater. A fan heater. Put the fan, he complained, this fan's making too much noise. Then they brought him one of those other ones that just heated without the fan. So this one's better. I like this one better. No noise. No noise. You have to be, couldn't just make noise and shouting. I remember I was with, we were in one meeting and well, I forget where it was. Kanpur, or I forget. But anyway, Shiva Ram Maharaj's room was next to mine, and the devotees there was a veranda, and so the devotees would go around, they talk loudly. Shiva Ram Maharaj at one point, he put a big sign out the front of his door. He said, don't stand here and talk. I said, oh, well, I'm glad he did that, because they're talking loudly. We practically shout. Some of them, when they talk, they're shouting practically. And said, don't stand here and talk. Go somewhere else. So, so you have to be mindful and sensitive that there may be some other devotional activities that are going on that you don't want to create unnecessary disturbance. So, anyway, going back to here, that the boys were very obedient to the father, and they took the father's instructions on shirasha, on their heads. Also significant. They totally surrendered to it. Here also mentioned, they not only took it on their heads just out of obedience, but they took it heart and soul. Heart and soul is mentioned here. They accepted the words of their father with heart and soul. First of all, with heart and soul, and on their heads. On their heads means they just were obedient and they just surrendered to whatever his instructions were. But it wasn't just, just like, mechanically, he's our father, he's the king, and now we're going to follow, we're taking on the heads. But they took it in their heart that this is a very nice instruction given to us by our father, the king, given to us by our father, the king, who is a very qualified person. So within their heart they accepted it, and they took it on their head in a very surrendered way. So naturally the father is like a guru to you. Just like we're talking about the Prācīnas, the Lord Shiva became their Diksha Guru, and then they were able to have the darshan of Lord Vishnu, who appeared under the water of the lake and in an 8-armed Vishnu form, riding on Garuda. And as I said, he came and said, you go and you marry Marisha. But when the Prācīnas came out, of doing their 10,000 years, before that, while they were there, Narad Muni had come and preached to King Prācīnabarhi to extricate him from too much entanglement in performing all these yagyas and disentangle them from these types of activities. So King Prācīnabarhi became very attached, and he went to the forest to do tapasya. And so this was before the Pracetas came back. This was before they came back, and he left instructions, when you come back, you do everything like this. But he thought that I'm going to go immediately now. They're doing their tapasya, they're following my instruction, they're going to get married, the kingdom will go on. So he decided, he was so serious after hearing Narad Muni, he was so serious about just being detached, he just left and left the instructions. When they came out of the lake, they saw that the trees had overgrown everywhere. Normally when there's a good king, everything is nicely governed. So when there's cities and there's farming, and farming means that they're not like jungle. Everywhere has to be jungle, not jungle. The Prabhupada told us when you're farming, you have a cleared area, some trees, some water, some lake, the different areas like some pathways. He told us some, and farming over here. Not everywhere the trees just become jungle. So they were very angry. So what the trees? And because that happened because there was a period, a small period there was no king until the Pracetas came and took it up. So therefore it was a little bit neglected. And the trees, they can grow very fast. Just like in this country we have gum trees. They grow really fast. They can just take over all the pasturing grounds. And in New Govardhan they always have to clear that because they just take over all the pasturing grounds for the cows, for the growing. They would take and become a jungle again. They get a lot of rain up there. They can very easily become a jungle. It's a continuous. They have to do it, especially in the summer when there's so much rain. So they became very angry. They saw so many trees, and they said, "This is not good. That how we can grow anything." And so they, from their mystic power, combined mystic power of all the 10 sons, fire came out, and they started to burn all the trees down. Burn all the trees down. So much so, just practically the whole area was becoming scorched, and the trees were going to ash. And so much so that Lord Brahma himself said, "This is not very good. That they're going too far." So he came personally and asked them to desist. Came personally. So, Lord Brahma, he asked, so they immediately stopped. And then he said, "Now the Lord has given you," and so he knew of what the instruction of Lord Vishnu was. "You continue, and the demi-goddess of the forest will present to you Marisha." Interesting now, but I tell this story because later on they marry Marisha, and from the 10, there's only one son produced, and that's Daksha. Is another birth of Daksha. And Daksha initially was born from Brahma. He offended Lord Shiva. He was killed. And you had to live some time with the head of the goat and the body of the Daksha. And then after that life, he came back again as the son of the Pracetas and Marisha. And then at some point, the Pracetas thought, now it's time for us to retire. We've lived a long life, and they instructed Daksha that you look after Marisha, and Marisha, you look after Daksha. And you do your service nicely. So they went off and did tapasya again. And it's mentioned they went off to the west and nearby the, who was that? Jajali Muni. There was a place where Jajali Muni was doing tapasya, doing meditation. They decided to go there. It was in the west nearby the sea again. And so they went to the place of Jajali Muni, and they sat there. And they were doing their tapasya again, meditating on the Supreme Lord, and using the prayers that they learned from Lord Shiva. So then Narad Muni came. Previously they had Lord Shiva. Narad Muni came, and he gave them further. So they were overwhelmed to see Narad Muni. Narad Muni came, and they said that Narad Muni can travel everywhere, and he came there. He divines everyone's presence. He knows what they're doing. He came there. So they paid their obeisances and glorified him. And then he gave them further instruction about the entanglement of the world, and now it's very good that you're becoming detached from that. And he gave them so many different instructions. So he became another guru, like Shiksha guru. They had the Diksha guru was Lord Shiva directly, and then the Shiksha guru, Narad Muni, came again to give them more instructions. He was like Shiksha guru. So one has a Diksha guru but can have many Shiksha gurus. In one sense, King Prācīnabarhi was the Shiksha guru to the Pracetas. And then Narad Muni came, he was Shiksha guru. So one can have many different Shiksha gurus, receive so many different instructions, and if one is very qualified and the person giving instructions is very qualified, it's a very nice arrangement, for making rapid advancement making rapid advancement on the path of devotional service. So the serious student, I mean, one can be casual and take up the Krishna consciousness, very nice, but one who wants to be serious and make a rapid advancement, then he takes shelter of the Diksha Guru, of the sadhus, shastras. So many Shiksha Gurus are there, ultimately giving instruction how to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So this is a very wonderful story here in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Today also I was reminded today that today is not Bhavanasmi, Gopastami. Gopastami is famous for when Lord Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys, they were in the Kumara age, they were young, they would go with the cowherd. Kumara age, Krishna has different ages, they call Kumara, Poganda, Kaishora, Jovanam. So Kumara is up to 5, it's considered up to 5, it's Kumara age. And then Poganda is the next age, from 5 to 6 on, and then up to 10, and then Kaishora after the 10, and so on, and Jovanam in the youth. And Krishna just stays Jovanam. And so, so today is the day. So formerly they would look after the calves, going out with the cowherd men under the supervision. So today is the day it's celebrated when Krishna graduated, Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys graduated from the Kumara, just looking after the calves. They were allowed by the cowherd men going into their 6th year to look after the cows and the calves together. And they were allowed to go different areas unsupervised. They didn't need to go with the cowherd men. They gave their, you go there today, you go there today. So this is the day that's celebrated. There's many stories associated with this, told by Jiva Goswami and others in different shastras. One story associated with this is that one story is that Mother Yasoda, in preparing Krishna to go from the Kumara age to the Poganda age and go first day of looking after the cows and the calves, she dressed him up very opulently, like a prince. She wanted to dress him very nicely for this special occasion. Now's the day you're going from looking after the calves. Now you're like almost a man. You're going from that and you're going to looking after the cows and the calves. And so she dressed him up almost looking like a prince, with a crown and everything like that. So Krishna just allowed her to do that, and his mother Yasoda. And so he came out. And when the cowherd boys saw him, they, after Mother Yasoda left, they kind of started laughing. We're going out to the cow pastures, looking after the cows and the calves, and you're dressed like that. So they said, you can't be dressed like this, you're all going to get dirty and everything. So they brought the cowherd dress, and they dressed him again, and they went out like that. Now another story also told, there are different understandings of this story of Subal Milana, which is when Krishna went out. Some say it happened on this day, Gopashtami. Some say it happened on the Trayodasi a few days after this, but some celebrate both days. But another story is that when Krishna was going out on this day, he'd just come into looking after the cows, and when he was going out, he said to Subal, his very close cowherd friend, he said, I can't stand going out here, and it's a special day. And actually, apparently there was, some sort of ceremony performed by Nanda and the cowherd men to introduce the boys to this function, and there was like a ritual happened, and so all that was performed. And then he turned to Subal and said that, I'm really missing Radharani. You have to bring her here. And then Subal said, how can she come here? The girls aren't allowed. This is a boys only service, and this whole ceremony. And Krishna said, no, I'm in desperate separation of Radharani. Somehow figure it out how to bring her here. He said, what, in the daylight? She can't come here. Especially her mother-in-law Jatila and Kotila, they're not going to allow her to come out. So figure it out. So Subal kind of was scratching his head. So he devised a plan. He picked up a really small calf, and he went to Radharani's house, and Jatila was there. And then just before he got there, he was carrying the calf, and he set the calf down, and he pinched it so it would run off. He just gave it a pinch, and the calf ran off. And so it ran off, and then he proceeded on, and then Jatila came there. So what are you doing here? And he thought some mischief was going. She thought some mischief was going on. You're going to try to sneak Radha out to be with Krishna. So she was trying to block it. What are you doing all the way over here? She said, no, you've come to do. You're with that. You're always with Krishna. There's some mischief going on here. I'm not going to allow you to do any mischief. Don't even think about it. Right? So he said, no, mother, no. It's just when one of the calves, ran all the way here, and her mother is crying like anything and inconsolably, and I've tried to catch this calf, and she actually, Jotila actually said, the calf came all the way here from Nanda all the way over here. How did he come this? Well, I was trying to catch it, but it was too fast. He had all the answers, right? It was too fast, and I ran all the way here, and it's somewhere around here. No, it's not here. I haven't seen it. It's not here. Go back. No, it's here. I saw it. And so I said, all right, we'll look for it together. So they went together looking, and then he went in a little bit different direction, went out of her sight, and then he snuck in the house of Radharani. And they're very similar looking, fair complexion, Subal and Radharani. So he went, and he told Radharani what he wanted, that Krishna wanted to be with her. And then she said, well, how I can go there? And then I've devised a plan. He said, Subal said, I've devised a plan. We'll switch clothes. And you dress me up to look like you, and I'll dress you up to look like me. And so they did it. So Radharani dressed him up so perfectly well. So just a spitting image of her, and she dressed him up to look like. What did I say? I forgot. And she dressed him up to look like her, and he dressed her up to look like him. So very perfectly done. And so. Then she came out as Subal, and so he said that Radharani in Subal's voice that I can't find the calf. Oh no! Wait a minute! No, actually he had the calf, and was walking out. So she immediately checked to see make sure Radharani was still in there, and so Radharani just walked past and went and joined with Krishna. And then when she came with Krishna, Krishna was actually very unhappy that Subal had come back without Radha. He didn't recognize her. And then, you failed. What happened? Couldn't you think of anything? He was very angry. He said, So Radharani decided to test Krishna a little bit. He said, well, I just couldn't do it. It's too hard. But if you like, I can try and get Chandravali to come. I can try to make some trick to get Chandravali to come. And Krishna said, no, you can't, it's like milk and curd. Curd won't replace milk. You have to get Radharani. So, and then she revealed herself. Right, you don't recognize me, I'm your Radha. So Krishna looked more close. Oh, you're Radha. So, this is a wonderful story that's associated also with this day. And as I said, some say it happened in Triodicee 3 days later. But anyway, whatever. It's a very nice story. So today is the anniversary of Gopastami. When Krishna went from looking after just the calves, he went to the cows and the calves. So, Jai. Sri Krishna Gopastami ki Jai. Sri Radha Gopinath ki Jai. Gopremanandi Hari Hari Bo. Does anyone have any question? Yes. Sorry, just start again. I was a bit distracted. Yeah.
So I was wondering, how is that? And that also get to read Lord Shiva and Mune, and also parents says Lord Vishnu as well. So I was just wondering, how is it possible?
For who? For the
Prācīnabarhi.
Yeah. How is it possible to have the good qualities?
No, as in having a father who's into good activities, and they came up to be so good.
Who the father who was?
King Prācīnabarhi
Yeah.
was into fruitive activities.
Oh yeah, but yes, but I mean these things are meant to be performed by the king in duty to governing over the kingdom. He was a devotee, But, just like devotees live in the world, sometimes they have to go to their jobs. Maybe they're a teacher, maybe they're, an engineer. And so they have to do their duty. So part of the duty of the king is to make sure all these yajnas are going on. So he was still devotee. He became a non-devotee because of that. No, he was a devotee, but he was doing all his duties. But he was doing so nicely, doing so many of them, he felt himself a little bit, implicated in all these fruitive yajnas, performance of yajna for fruitive result for the welfare of the kingdom. So that's when Narad Muni came there and preached him to extricate him out of that. So, so it wasn't that he became non-devotee or he was a lesser person. He was doing in duty to do it. Yeah, the kings have to do it. They have to, not that they're doing it themselves, but they get the brahmanas in to do these yajnas for the benefit of the kingdom. But he was still devotee, but he was feeling, I'm doing so many of these things, maybe I'm getting a little bit entangled, thinking about these things too much. And therefore Narad Muni came and was able to preach to him and gave him a very good example of the King Puranjana. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Babu.
How do we become like the Pracetas in terms of accepting the orders of Allah and
How many?
How do we become like an obedient or
Well, a general understanding has to be there. Prabhupada actually, he told, I remember Father Kelly, he came to see Prabhupada in Melbourne. He was a priest with Father Kelly was a Catholic priest, I think, yeah. And then he came and he said, how can people around the world understand about the real religiosity? He said, well, there has to be basic education. And he said that I find it sometimes a little difficult dealing with people that one saying God told me to do like that, and the other one saying God told me to do like this, and they're contradicting with each other. And Prabhupada actually answered that. He said that, well, there has to be general education for all people that they understand the basic religious principles. And when they understand the basic religious principles, if someone claims that God told me to do this, God told me to go and steal money from this person's house, and God told me to do it, that doesn't align with the general principles of religiosity. So how God actually told him to do it, whether God told him or whether his mind told him to do it, just like Prabhupada says that different types of people pray to God with different. The owner is praying to God. The owner of the house is praying, God, please protect my house. And the thief is praying to God, please let me steal from that house. So, what to do as far as God. But one has to follow general principles. So first of all, you have to understand basic spiritual principles. And when you understand basic spiritual principles, and then basic spiritual principles mean that to make advancement, you have to approach the bona fide authority. So you search out the bona fide authority, understanding from the basic education in books like Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada actually said, yes, we have our Bhagavad Gita that we are distributing all over the world. This gives the basic understanding of what is the spiritual principle. So you have that idea in Bhagavad Gita. It's recommended by Krishna himself. Go approach the Guru. So you approach the Guru, and then you're following the instructions of the Guru, applying those instructions to mind, and you're so along with that, you're reading all the different shastras. You're reading. Prabhupada instructed us to hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day, Bhagavad Gita. So we're hearing these stories. We're reading about these pastimes, how the Prācīnabarhi are so obedient. So along with following the principles, we're becoming purified, and we're also getting this knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the different interactions between devotees of the Lord, gurus and their disciples. This is how I am supposed to act, like this, like they did. Maybe I'm not on their level, but at least I can try to follow in the footsteps. We can't imitate, but as much as possible apply it to my life. And here we see Prabhupada is recommended one has to be obedient to the orders of the father or the guru, the king, or so therefore I should become like that. Therefore, attending and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, these books, Nectar of Devotion, all these books are very essential along with our spiritual practices. And then gradually, we'll develop these qualities. You can't expect you'll have them immediately, Sometimes devotees make this mistake. They read it in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam about these elevated devotees, and they want to be like that, and they're very disappointed, and after 2 weeks they're not like that. I'm not like that. I've been practicing, I've been following 6 months, 1 year. 1 year, 2 years I've been devotee. I still like, why is it I can't feel like these Prācīnas? Well, you're just beginning devotee. You don't have any patience. You have to follow nicely, very respectfully and humbly. Then you don't prematurely try to think yourself in the big position. Don't jump. Don't try to jump up to the topmost position. Just like Prabhupada gave the Hanuman, just like Hanuman. He could do very powerful. He could make himself big and jump to Lanka. But we're not like Hanuman. We're not that powerful. What was that saying? Then he said, like, just like we're like big monkey, big belly, Ceylon jumping melancholy. Formerly Sri Lanka was called Ceylon. So big monkey, big belly. We were thinking the Hanuman is big and he can eat so much. He needs to energy. So we're thinking, I'm going to eat like Hanuman. But when it comes to jumping to Lanka, can you do that? You can't do that. If you want to eat like Hanuman, then first of all show us how you can jump to Lanka. Big monkey, big belly, Ceylon jumping melancholy. Okay, now it's time for you to jump to Lanka. Oh, no. Melancholy, don't ask me. Then don't eat so big like Hanuman. Understand your position, actually. Don't get puffed up. So people, generally in Kali Yuga, people are very impatient. They want something quick. But it takes time. We had many lives. So we have to be patient, and then following everything, then we can come up to the topmost positions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.